You're welcome back to Politics HQ and News Central Television. Former governors Nyesom, Wike, Umahi, Gboyega, Oyetola, Atiku, Bagudu, Ibrahim, Geidam, Abubakar, Badaru, Simon Lalong and Bello Matawalle have all been appointed ministers in President Bola Tinubu's administration. This has raised the subject of life pension governors receive after leaving office. Opinions are divided over the continuation or the discontinuation of these pensions, with many Nigerians, including civil society, saying it's a waste of taxpayers' money. With Nigeria on an economic brink and the nation still barely recovering from several local and global economic changes, what governors receive in the form of pensions has been deemed exorbitant. Now, joining me tonight on Politics HQ to discuss this issue is Kolawole, Deputy Director of the Social Economic Right and Accountability Project, SERAP. A warm welcome to you, Kola, and thanks for joining us on PHQ.
Good evening, Benga. I'm happy to be.
Now, Kola, could you give us a clear rundown of the main concerns that your organization, SERAP, is addressing in its recent letter to President Bola Tinubu? It seems to resolve around former governors serving as ministers and their collection of life pensions. Can you elaborate on that?
Thank you very much, Benga. SERAP's concern is based on the need to preserve the much-needed public funds that will be used for things that will, of course, benefit Nigerians, particularly in respect of the socio-economic rights. We know the state of Nigeria as it is. We know the state of the economy. We are aware of the rising cost of living. And we're also aware of the president's call for Nigerians to tighten their seatbelts, as it were. And so it is just commonsensical, it's logical. And it's required of those in public office, in this instance, the president, to lead by example, set the standard, as you can call it that, to ensure that the cost of governance is, of course, kept to the various minimum. And in this instance, since he is the one that has statutory powers to appoint ministers, of course, he also has them under his directions. That is the law. He should be able to instruct those he has appointed as ministers who used to be governors and who are still earning pension in their respective states to stop the practice. And this is not new. SERAP has been at the forefront of this call for a long time, including the space of two of three litigations, two of which are pending in court, and one that's been resolved in favor of SERAP. And so it is only normal, or call it a requirement, on the part of the president, given the oath of office he took, that he instructs these individuals that he has appointed as ministers who were former governors, and who might still be earning pension from their former state. Of course, this is a drain not only on the state's resources, but only also on Nigeria's resources, because even the monies that go to the state ultimately comes from the federal purse.
Kola, how do you respond to critics that say, you know, there are two separate different issues? They're getting their reward from being governors, and of course, they're going to be working as ministers. How do you respond to that? That, you know, they deserve what they earn?
Of course, a clear response to that will be the law itself, which of course is the ground law. It directs everything we do as Nigerians, including the president. And the constitution is very clear. And I'm referring to the Code of Conduct for Public Officers, which bind every public officer in Nigeria, including the president. It is in the 5th schedule of the constitution, and it says clearly that no public officer, having held a former position as a public officer and also holding another, should earn pay from both simultaneously. That is the law. I didn't make that law. That law was made in 1999 as part of the Constitution, and it is binding on those individuals who are formerly governors and now as ministers. Because even as a governor, they are within the meaning of public officers, and as ministers also, they are public officers. So the law clearly forbids it. So in simple terms, it is against the law, and it's also against common sense and morality in this instance.
Now, talking about, you did mention that it's against the law. Can you break down why SERAP believes that the act of former governors collecting life pensions while simultaneously serving as ministers goes against the Nigerian constitution and the country's international commitments? You said it's against the law. Now, what specific sections of the Nigerian constitution 1999 as amended and international obligations that SERAP highlights to back its stance, your organization's stance, against this practice?
I've mentioned the code of conduct for public officers. It is in the constitution. It is a part of the constitution, and it's in the fifth schedule of the constitution. It creates clear principles that guides every public officer in Nigeria, including the president. The president is defined as a public officer in the constitution. So the code of conduct for public officers is in the constitution. It is a part of the constitution. It is the fifth schedule. And paragraph 2A is very clear. It clearly provides that no public officer who has held a previous position as a public officer should draw pay or remuneration from another public office he's holding. That is, he cannot earn pay simultaneously. We call it double emolument in this instance. And so clearly, the law, the constitution has envisaged this kind of things and has provided for what should obtain in that instance. So the constitution is not saying that the former governor cannot be a minister, or you cannot hold these public offices one after the other. It is simply saying that you cannot continue to draw benefit in terms of pay, remuneration, or pensions as a former governor and also continue to earn as a minister. So it is clearly an infraction of the constitution. This is one side. What about the economic value of this drain on the nation's resources from these individuals who are earning huge pay from the pension laws? The pension law is being challenged presently. We're in the courts on that as well. And notwithstanding the fact that the Federal Court of Lagos has pronounced on the legality of pension laws in 2019. How will we continue this practice that is an enormous drain on funds that could have been otherwise spent on meaningful ventures for most Nigerians? I mean, for instance, we have 8 of them in the new cabinet of Mr. President, who are former governors, but he may be drawing pension from their former states, knowing fully well that these states have pension laws. So it is incumbent upon these governors and the president in this instance for them to discuss if they are earning those pensions and for the president to give them clear directives to stop earning, which means they should stop disobeying the law.
Now, Kola, still talking about this concept of double emolument, the concept of collecting double emolument, life pensions and ministerial salaries seems quite complex. Could you help us understand the general public's perception of this practice and its potential impact on the administration, the outlook of the Tinubu government if they're allowed to go on with it?
It would simply, and I can say without any kind of empirical evidence, that of course most Nigerians are against this practice because this is not the first time SERAP has been engaged in advocacy against this practice. We have started this way back, even shortly after 1999, and that is why we had gone to court in 2019. The Federal Court of Lagos, where Justice Oguntoyiba agreed with SERAP and directed the Attorney General of the Federation at that time to challenge the legality of state pension laws and to seek a reform of some of those pensions that have been paid unlawfully. And so that matter is yet to, that judgment is yet to be obeyed, as it were. And so what it means for Nigerians, which stands to reason why Nigerians are against this practice, and SERAP is against this practice, is that the resources of the state, of the Nigerian state, I'm talking of Nigeria as a country, is being drained by a few individuals who are benefiting. And when you look at the content of these state pension laws, it is a huge drain. Millions of naira have been spent. So in some cases, in some instances, billions of naira is spent every year to maintain former governors and their deputies. Perhaps at the most, they spend 80 years in office. And now they are ministers again. They are still drawing pay, which amounts to a huge drain of resources. And like I mentioned earlier, these are resources either at the state or federal level that could be committed to more profitable ventures, things that will benefit Nigerians. And we've spoken about the palliative either the palliative that the federal government are deemed to roll out 5 billion allocated to states. And that is not enough. It is not enough. If some of these funds were channeled in other worthwhile ventures, for instance, education, it would help a lot of Nigerians. And to give it context, Gboyega, we have more than 20 million out-of-school children in Nigeria. It used to be 13 million in 2019. Now it's 20 million. Can't some of these funds be paid as pensions to former governors, including those whether they are ministers or not?
Now, Kola, just before, sorry to interrupt you because we're fast running out of time in the program. I would like to give my parting question to you. SERAP's letter hints at possible legal action if President Tinubu's government does not respond positively. Could you elaborate on what those actions might entail and why they should be considered? And ultimately, what does your organization, the Social Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, hope to achieve through this initiative, and how do you envision it contributing to improving governance, public confidence, and equitable utilization of Nigeria's resources?
Thank you, Megan. I really hope this does not end up in another public interest litigation. It is a simple demand, a simple request that is in accordance with the law. The president, if he has any iota of intention to adhere to the rule of law, must simply obey. It is just going to give directives to this governor, to these governors who are now ministers, to do the needful. We've seen other people who are senators who have obeyed these directives, so there is for it. But of course, if the president does not heed does not toe the line of legality, we will be compelled to go to court to let the judiciary decide ultimately on behalf of the people who is right in this instance and who has this obligation to do this. And here in Benga as a rival is to ensure that Nigerians rule within the concept of rule of law, ultimately benefits from good governance as an aspect of democracy.
Thank you very much. On that note, I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Kolawole, Deputy Director, Social, Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP. Thanks for your time, as always, on Politics HQ.
Thank you very much.